Way back when I was a jazz studies major at Wayne State University in Detroit, I saw a lot of very impressive things, but nothing compares to what happened one day when a trumpet player didn't show up for rehearsal. It was one of the most unbelievable things I had ever seen, and it still blows me away every time I think about it. Wait till you hear this story. Welcome to Tales from the Pit and Beyond. True stories from my career as a professional bass player, always with a point or a punchline, right here at ForBassPlayersOnly.com. I'm John Liebman, and I grew up listening to the great classic rock and blues rock from the 60s and 70s, and I'm guessing you did too. After a long career as a professional bass player, I've now made it my mission to help other people learn bass and finally have some fun with it. And now those people aren't just listening to music, they're making it. They're playing their favorite songs on the bass and having so much fun. Sound good? Just remember, you're never too old to groove. So let's play bass. All right, here's the scene. I was a jazz studies major at Wayne State University, and I think it was toward the end of my tenure there. I was playing in the top big band, and the band leader, his name was Dennis Teeny, and he was also the chairman of the jazz studies department. Not just the chairman, but he formulated that whole department. It was his baby. And he was a pretty intense guy, but he was a brilliant musician, and he was a good guy. And at the time, I don't remember why, if we had to, or if we just, some of the folks in the band would bring in charts, arrangements. It could have been for an assignment or just something that they wanted the band to play. I don't remember, but there was one day where a guy brought in his arrangement, and I think he seemed kind of tense. I guess it was for a project, and he was dealing with a deadline, and he needed to get it played or recorded or whatever it was. And for whatever reason, one of the trumpet players was absent that day. And the guy was like, oh man, I got this chart, I got a deadline, I got to get this done, and I spent all this time writing the arrangement. So Dennis Teeny, he thinks for a minute, he says, I will get up there and sing the fourth trumpet part. And we all like, what? And I will never forget this image as long as I live. He walked up there, this is the whole big band, so saxophones, all the trombones, the trumpets, -1, and the rhythm section. I was playing bass. I don't even remember if I was playing upright or electric. Keyboard player, guitar player, drummer, the whole big band. And he got up there, and a trumpet is a B-flat instrument, which means, for whatever reason, a tradition in music, if it's in the key of C, you have to write it up a whole step. You have to write it in a different key than it actually sounds. Saxophones are the same. There's B-flat saxophone, alto saxophone is E-flat, and clarinet, and there's a bunch of them. Actually, technically, bass is a transposing instrument because the note you hear is actually an octave lower than what's written. Anyway, I say that just because it made the situation just that much more unbelievable. And he was standing up there like he was one of the trumpet players. And I could see him and I could hear him, and he was going, and he's reading it and he's transposing it and he's getting the phrasing, and it was just, we all thought the rehearsal was just going to fall apart at that point, and it was just a matter of do what you can with what you have where you are. And I'll tell you, that's jazz school. You never know what you're going to encounter, and professional musicians don't panic. They just fill the space with whatever they've got. And Dennis Teeny was a brilliant musician, and like I said, he was a pretty intense, uptight guy, but he was a good guy. He called me, I graduated a long time ago. He called me maybe within the last 10 or 15 years just to catch up and see how I was doing, and he invited me down to Wayne State, and they have a whole new part of the campus now, the beautiful facility, And he showed me around, and we went to lunch, and we just enjoyed each other's company and talked about the staff there was unbelievable. The faculty, rather, that he assembled. Dave Vanderpitt was the guy I studied arranging from. Dave Vanderpitt was the chief staff arranger for Motown for 4 years. So he did all those great records that we hear. That's who I studied arranging from. I couldn't have been happier about that. And Dennis taught some classes, and Matt Michaels was another guy. It was just, I was actually the very first ever graduate of that program, of the Jazz Studies program at Wayne State University. So I gotta just hand it to Dennis Teeny. He left us about a year ago. He was a good guy. I've learned so much from him. His title became Distinguished Professor Emeritus of Music. A well-deserved title. Sounds very impressive, and it should be impressive because he was a good guy. So I wanted to share that with you because I've never seen anything like that in my life, and it's just a great example of what you can do when something just has to get done, and there's got to be a way to figure it out, and somebody had an idea. I said, hey, I can do this, and I still can see him singing the fourth trumpet part with the transposition and the phrasing and everything else. So I wanted to share that with you, just not from only from my experience, but also just to give Dennis Teeny the well-deserved kudos that he should have. Teeny, T-I-N-I. His brother's a bass player, by the way. He played with was it Paul Anka, I think, in Vegas for like ever. Anyway, musical family. I think Dennis played accordion also, but he was an unbelievable jazz pianist, classical stuff, everything. Anyway, that's Dennis Teeny. That's the story. That is this week's episode of Tales from the Pit and Beyond. True stories from my career as a professional bass player, always with a point or a punchline, right here at forbassplayersonly.com. And I will look forward to seeing you back here with another edition of Tales from the Pit and Beyond next week, right here at forbassplayersonly.com. By the way, if you're not already subscribed to this channel, make sure you take care of that right now. Don't forget, I've got the Essence of Groove video every week. There are 2 videos every week. So there's a story and there's a lesson. And sometimes there's a lesson in the story. Anyway, I will see you back here, same time, same place next week. In the meantime, I'm John Liebman. Let's play bass.